All right, we just wrapped up module number 1 of the course Learning How to Learn on Coursera, and we are diving into module number 2. So module number 2 takes us into a couple new concepts. One of the big ones is chunking. So we go through chunking, what it is, how to form a chunk. We also talk about illusions of competence and retrieval practice. Then we go into seeing the bigger picture, what motivates you, the value of a library of chunks. Generative AI unleashes the learning potential of metaphors, overlearning, choking, Einstellung, chunking, and interleaving. So these are the main topics in the module number 2. It's still about an hour's worth of videos, so I'm going to dive in and take a look and see what I come up with. Wrapped up module number 2 of the Coursera course Learning How to Learn by Dr. Barbara Oakley. And some of the concepts we covered in module number 2 start out, what is a chunk? So they talk about a chunk as a group of neurons that fire together, and basically the idea is firing these neurons helps solidify this information into our brain. So it transfers it from the working memory over to the long-term memory. They also talk about illusions of competence. So they say rereading isn't effective. It's better to have active recall of these chunks in order to solidify the information into your long-term memory. So rereading kind of creates an illusion of competence in that you hear the information over and over again, but you're not actually actively recalling it. So when the time comes that you need to actively recall it, it might not be in the long-term memory, and it might not be there because you haven't actively recalled it to build those neurons firing as chunks. But then they get into the concept of library of chunks. So having a bunch of chunks that you can use and pick up, almost like a painter has a palette. If you got a couple different primary colors, you can do so much on the page. But if you've got, say, 36 or 87 different colors, well, your work can have a lot more nuance and variety to it. So having multiple chunks, the more chunks you have in your library, the more tools you have in your tool belt at your disposal. I also talk about overlearning, which is when you have a concept down and you are familiar with it, if you keep repeating the process of recalling it, you have a lot of diminishing returns. So you get good returns from the effort you put in the first recall, or maybe even the second recall, but in the third recall, in the fourth recall, that really drops off. So they say you're better off studying a variety of different topics rather than hammering home one specific topic over and over again. That brings up is interleaving. So rather than hammer home one subject, the idea is to go from subject to subject to subject. And that way you can maximize the returns you have on your investment in terms of your attention and your effort. So if you have 10 subjects that you study for 1 minute each, you're going to get way more out of that than having 2 subjects that you study for 5 minutes each. So interleaving is getting a general grasp on a subject and then moving on to the next one to maximize your returns. So that wraps up module number 2. I think this gave me a little bit more hands-on knowledge that will be useful in terms of conceptually figuring out how to study. It gives you a lot of details on the chunking and just the idea of chunking and how to solidify those chunks into your long-term memory and transfer them from your working memory. So if you haven't gone through it yet, I definitely recommend going through module 2 and checking that out. And now we're moving on to the next module.